We've got some
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
And we spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit.
If you'd like to learn how to turn that content into profit, just go to contentsprofit.com. There's a surprise in there for you.
Oh, yeah. And today, I'm excited for today's guest and topic.
Tell me why.
How to push your limits on work ethic, mindset, and results.
Ooh, results. Is that a result?
That sounds a whole lot like discipline.
Yes.
Which I need in my life, man. I do need more discipline in my life. That is my word for 2021.
I know. This week we talked about that a lot.
Let's go.
That's good. Guys, before we get started, please go ahead and subscribe. We worked really, really hard to bring you these stories, these lessons for you on your phone every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So subscribe so you know when those episodes are dropping on your phone. And follow us on social media at BIZBROS, where you can find all the golden boulders that we distribute all over the place.
Good job. Good job.
That was good, right? That's good.
Please, if you find this episode impactful, if you find today's guest to be his message to be impactful, and you believe that it can help somebody else move one step forward towards the goal,
yes,
all we ask from you is to share this episode with that person. And please don't forget to leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
That's right. So today, another awesome episode. We partner with PodMax to share the stories of some amazing people that are shaping our future. People that are taking ideas and turning them into reality. These stories are meant to empower you to go all out and build a brighter future.
That is right. That is right. And today's guest, guys, we're in for a treat. And today's guest, his superpower is communication and adaptability. And I love that because in today's market, you need both of those. And not just in today's market, but in your life.
Yes.
Everything is so fast-paced and it's changing so quickly that you need to develop those skills.
Ooh,
he also is extremely proud of his marriage, which actually he revealed to us that he got married pretty young, but they have both grown together. And you know what they say?
Maybe he can give you some tips, Sponsor.
I don't know if they actually say this out there, but solid marriage, solid business. Woo! I don't know. Maybe I just made that up.
No, it's true. It's true. All right. He's also incredibly proud of being a father. I can definitely relate to that. So we'll dive into that. I love that his first two things that he shared with us was his family and his wife and his son. Oh, so good. He also, by the way, became a millionaire at 29. He had this goal, and we were chatting off camera. Not just the money side of things, but the mental, the growth, everything that comes with it, right? I think we're excited to dive into it. And fun fact, he met his dad when he was 24. And if you hear the story, I don't know if we're going to dive into that today. We'll see what happens, but it looks like a Hollywood blockbuster movie stuff. The name of his company, Bulletproof Coaching. He helps salespeople learn the sales process and earn more money. Entrepreneurs start, launch, and scale their businesses. So good.
That is right. Please welcome incredible salesman, the most humble man in the podcasting kingdom, and a beard that catches anyone's eyes and hearts.
Chaz
Wolfe! All
Thank
right.
you, Chaz. I appreciate it, man.
Welcome.
Happy to be here.
Chaz, I am so pumped up. At the end, I was reading here, a beer that catches anyone's eyes, and then I didn't have this writing here, but I was like, and hearts. Man, you catch people's hearts. That's right.
I missed my cue, man. He was improvising, and I'm like, okay, script is done. Boom, cue him in.
Let's go.
Oh well. Dude, Chaz, we're incredibly honored. The first time we saw you, I think it was last PodMax, in the group, and the fact that all these people were talking great things about you. Were like, this is a guy we need to connect with. Maybe we slipped some money in there to Josh and Eric to pair us up with you. Just saying, I can't confirm or deny that. But again, thank you for being on the show, man. Why don't you start by sharing a little bit of backstory, right? Because you've achieved wonderful things from the family to the business side of things. We know that you own several business ventures, right? And your main company is doing amazing things. So how did that start?
Yeah, well, so like 3 questions there, but the backstory to Chaz Wolfe, single mom family, grew up with not a bunch of what would maybe be considered success. And really what I learned early on was that anything I wanted out of life, I was going to have to go get. And so I learned, work ethic and just the ability to have a strong mind and to go get whatever it is that I wanted from my mom. And that turned me into an entrepreneur early on, right? And even just being part of the single mom family, I had to grow up early. And so to fast forward to one of your other questions, which was like, how is it going right now? Like, how did I get started with this business? It's like, well, my bulletproof coaching business, where we help salespeople and entrepreneurs, like you mentioned, that has all been born out of me being a successful salesperson, a successful sales manager, a successful executive director for big names like Grant Cardone and Frank Kern. And then outside of that, having my own businesses. And so I've launched over 10 businesses. We do millions of dollars a year. I've got 50 employees over 3 states. And so it's just like all this stuff that, like sounds really cool on paper, but I wanted to be able to take those things that I had gained, learned, and even grown in myself, and be able to then, return the favor and help others, salespeople and entrepreneurs do the same thing.
I love it, Chaz. And I love how the path of very successful people often turns into coaching and wanting to give back to others and help them, right? Give them this information that is going to take them and their business to the next level. And I mean, you mentioned that you work for some pretty recognized entrepreneurs out there, right? Like Grant Cardone and Frank Kern. Sure. Personally, I had no idea about that. Did that help shape the Chaz that is operating right now?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I would be a complete arrogant fool to say no. Like you don't work every day inside of the 10X headquarters. I had specified time in Grant's office. I worked every single day with Frank, like literally back and forth, him and I talking about the strategy of the business and things to do with the team and what not to do and how to change things up and money to spend on our marketing ad and just all this stuff, right? So yes, of course, those two have influenced me, even just being in the middle of those two. Because I don't know literally if there's a further difference in style and personality and business preference. And so learned a ton in that season of my life.
I am extremely curious. How old were you when that happened, and how did you get to that opportunity, right? Because I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs out there I want to find that mentor. I want to go into an environment that is going to help my personal growth, right? In here, a few years back, we actually discovered that motivation wasn't that reliable, right? We wake up in the morning extremely motivated, and sometimes throughout the middle of the day, that motivation gets depleted, and we're like, oh, I don't really want to work anymore or do the hard work. But guess what? When you put yourself in an environment that everybody else is pushing you forward, helping you to succeed, that works, I mean, way better than motivation. So for you, I'm guessing this was at a young age, but how did you manage to find those opportunities?
Yeah, great question. So you asked specifically when I worked with Grant and Frank, and that was actually in 2019, so just a couple of years ago. And it wasn't a scenario for me of going there to necessarily become better. Yes, of course, that was all part of it, right? Like I wasn't going there and not planning to learn from the environment of 10X and Frank. My ears were completely open to learning plenty, but it was kind of a unique situation. Most people do that. Most people who get hired on, at the 10X headquarters are looking to just get some time around that mindset. And, but I had already been successful in my own deals. I had 7 companies at that point. We were doing, $3-4 million a year in my franchises. And so I was already a top sales producer. I was already a top sales manager. And so it was more so of me getting connected to Jared, who's Grant's right-hand guy, and us talking over the course of about 2 years, and him realizing that I had talent and me realizing that not so much Grant. I mean, I love Grant, but it was really Jared that I was drawn to, and I wanted to work with Jared. And so him and I, over a course of about 1.5 years, 2 years, kind of just kept going back and forth on bigger opportunities. Because I was already making a ton of money in retrospect, what is a ton of money? But, for a 29, 30, 31-year-old, I was making a ton of money. And so I wasn't going to just drop all that, drop my businesses, drop my current sales career just to, go work at the 10X headquarters. Like I wasn't motivated like that. But I did want to get around Jared. I did want to get around Frank, of course, Grant, but it was more so of the opportunity of what could have been with that agency. Unfortunately, it didn't necessarily work out exactly how everyone had hoped, but everyone still learns, and I still have my businesses, and I came back and started my next endeavor, and here we are.
No, I love it, and thank you for sharing that part of the story, because like Fonzie was saying, environment is such a key aspect, right? And there's experiences that come to us, and the fact that you were involved in that relationship with Jared, right? And always talking about those bigger and better opportunities. Like lately, obviously, with the people that we've been able to connect on the show, same thing happens, right? There's a relationship, there's some kind of chemistry that happens, and it's like, hey, if we're talking about the same things and we like the same things and we want to go, kind of similar direction, can we help each other out?
Exactly.
So the possibilities of this happening, I think it is really encouraging. And lately with our group, with the people that we help on our side with the content side of things, we've been harping on the power of the platform, the power of the relationship, right? We're so psyched that we tend to see when we start with stuff like this, it's like, okay, the views and the engagement and the likes. Who cares, man? Like the first time we launched the show, after 9 months is when we saw the numbers, but because we were so focused on building the relationships, right? And if we can serve in some way or another, we're going to try to do it. And every relationship that we've been able to build through the platform is helped us, right? So I'm assuming you obviously had a platform, and then these relationships have obviously helped your career, and you've helped those as well. And then, whatever happens, but we're both better people. So I'm super interested on very early on, because I mean, at 20-year-old, right? It's not common to see the massive mind shift that it takes from, working or not having that, I guess I'm putting air quotes here, millionaire mindset, right? Like there's this stigma around the $1 million, right? But there's a growth that has to happen, and full disclosure, for us, we're not millionaires, right? Like we haven't even crossed $1 million in sales for our company, hopefully soon. But at the same time, we've experienced this immense amount of growth in the last year and a half or so that have allowed us to finally, let go and hire people. And the second we started hiring the first one, we're like, oh my God, this is so good. How can we do more of this? How can we serve more? How can we support their staff even more? So what are some elements, so key elements that you experienced through that growth moment in your life to be able to achieve what you've achieved?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's a loaded question, so I'm going to try to give as much detail as I can. The first part of that is individual growth that you mentioned, right? So like for me, when I was 18, 19, and 21, I was part of an MLM, a multi-level marketing business. And we got to love MLMs. I'm not currently part of one, but you got to love MLMs for the
We've all been part of one at some point in our lives.
We've all been part of one. It's okay. It doesn't make you any worse of a person. In fact, I normally would say actually now, if I come across a 20-year-old who's like, tell me what to do, other than getting in sales and just making as much money as possible, go get in an MLM and do exactly what they say for 18 months. Do not deviate.
Yeah.
And through that process, you're going to read about 100 books. You're gonna go to conferences. You're gonna stretch yourself. You're gonna talk to people that you don't know. You're gonna do things that push yourself to the limits, and whether that be physically, whether that be mentally, the whole deal. So for me, that was like a college education. Those 3 years that I spent there, the almost 200 books that I read, the hours upon hours that I spent traveling and driving and meeting with people and no shows and shows and getting results, but then not getting results. And it allows you to have that format of, like you said, that personal development of like, okay, I'm pushing into something and I don't necessarily even know what I'm pushing into, but I want more. I want something better. I want something bigger, maybe more money, more success, whatever you kind of define that as. But you as a person have to grow, and you have to find your limits or find out what the end looks like. So that way, that you can push hard, or like David Goggins talks about, how you can push through it. Right. Because we all have that governor in our mind. And if we allow our mind to stop us, we'll stop way before our potential. The second piece that you asked there was about how to take that and actually how to then grow a business. And it's like, well, you had mentioned it as far as like being able to build a team. I was on before podcasting was big, I was on a video interview for an Executive Life magazine, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, something like that. And I'm in my 20s and I'm talking about our 50 employees and different locations that we've got. And the guy's just like, what in the world? It's like, well, you can't have all that if I expect other people to do like I do, right? And it's not that I'm lowering the standard. I was giving room for my employees, my team members, to be them, right? So their 100% doesn't look like my 100%. Yeah. And so you were just saying something similar to that. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We gave away a little responsibility, and when we watch our business grow, or we watch our team grow, and how do we do that more? And it's like, you have to be able to give away the responsibility, but at the same time, understand what it's like to build a team, because people do things differently. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It just means that you kind of get on the same page and you got to go in the same direction, but it's going to look different along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Dude, again, we could probably talk for hours, and thank you. I love the way how you distill the questions and the information. It looks like you have some methodical process in your head too, that it allows the framework, it allows to betray the information, right? And with that, like in the past couple interviews and this past week, we've talked a lot about frameworks and capacity and containers, right, in our daily lives, and how we make decisions, right? Yeah. So the fact that the second we understood the framework side of things, and for our servers, we have a very specific framework that we follow, and everything, if it doesn't fall in there, we don't execute, so it goes back to focus. Were you able to, how was the process of identifying maybe your own personal frameworks, or were you able to identify a sales framework? We often talk here on the show about the frictionless sale. How we get to a frictionless sale? Is that even a thing, the frictionless sale, right? So do you have a framework that you operated, that you discovered, that you developed on the sales side?
Yeah. So, okay. So on the personal, so the first question that you asked, the personal framework. So for me, yes, 100%, there is a framework there. You have to understand you, right? So I got to know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I have to be honest about it. I got to actually know what I need to work on, what I need to grow, right? So for me, a young Chaz, I was really dominant, a little bit aggressive. No, a lot of bit aggressive. I, maybe would have run over somebody or made somebody feel small, and over the course of time, that was just my ambition and my drive for more speaking. And actually then what was coming out in the midst of that was I'm an introvert, right? So I'm sharp spoken, and maybe it sounds a little bit aggressive because I'm really, really ambitious. So as I've learned and modified myself in those ways, I know how to communicate better, so forth and so on. Other people have different things that they need to move. Right? You have to know who you are. You got to know your identity. You got to be confident in who you are. And then you can begin the process of modification unto becoming who you need to be, right? As far as the second part of that, as far as like, how do you apply that? It's like, well, you can't run a business or run like clients, or you can't have a team if you are confused about yourself. You know what I mean? So the framework of how do I actually go down the sales process, or the framework of you even just like not after the sale, like you do the sale and then you have a certain process that you take your client through that still requires communication. It still requires relationship. It still requires results, but also communication. Okay, well, you have to build that through you knowing you. And then the second step is knowing them, right? So knowing them and knowing how to communicate with them. If you were going to communicate with me and I wasn't someone who could modify or was aware of that, you would need to communicate with me in bullet points, right? You need to say A, B, C. Otherwise, you're going to, I mean, not that you're going to lose me. I'm not going to have enough interest. You're going to lose my attention span, and I'm going to move to something different.
Yeah.
Like my wife, she needs the whole story, right? She needs the paragraph version,
We're backwards. My wife is like, give me the bullet points. And then I go like, the story's like, no, just the bullet points, please. I'm backwards.
No, exactly.
I love it. I love it.
It works together, right? And so in that relationship with you and your wife, it works together. But that's the same way it works in the professional world, whether it be with your clients, whether it be with your team members, whether it be with your prospects. Okay, so the frictionless sale. How do you lead your clients to yes? That's really what it is. There is a little bit of tension, because when people spend money, they're associating that money with hard work or literally sweat or time that they've spent, right? So they're trading all of those things. It's not just the dollar. They're trading all of those things that they had to get the dollar in order to get your service. So there has to be a little bit of friction. There has to be a little bit of bump. There has to be some trust and some rapport and some drawing in. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. There's a process that you can lead through relationship to get them to say yes.
Wow. So I love how you said what's behind the dollar, right? Because personally, I've never actually thought about that, right? Like I do think it is a hassle for people to let go of that, but the meaning attached to that money, to generating that dollar, like you just say, right? Like the work behind it, the sweat, maybe some tears in there, like definitely some tears in there. It is challenging, right? So thank you for sharing that. And I want to go a little bit backwards in the conversation where you were talking about partnering with Jared, and you said, I wanted to do bigger things, right? That you had these plans. For us, right, we of course have those dreams, those plans that we want to do eventually. But when we started, for us, we started out of need, right? There was a little bit of greed. When we entered the digital marketing realm, right? We didn't have much at the moment. We're looking, how do we make money? And we got introduced to this world by Ty Lopez and his famous I'm in my garage ad with the Lambo, right? And we're like, awesome. What if we get a Lambo? That mindset has changed a lot, right? Yeah, sure. But later on, we got introduced to this term that is like, you need to build your cash business first, so then you can go move on and do those dream scenarios, those big plans that you have in your mind. Was it like that for you as well? I know you moved on from MLM and then to do your own thing, but did you start it with your cash business, or you were immediately someone with those huge plans?
That's a really good question. Yes, I like to think of myself as someone as a big picture thinker, but I'll reverse it all the way back to me buying my first Edible Arrangements franchise. Did I think that I would have 7 locations in 3 states with 50 employees within 4 years? No, I did not think that at all. Right? Did I have really big plans of, like I told you, wanting to, hit the millionaire mark before I was 30 or whatever else, whatever iconic things that people do, right?
Yeah.
Of course. But I just knew that I had to take steps every single day to get toward that bigger thing. I didn't necessarily know that it was going to be Edible Arrangements or, real estate or, partnering with Jared at 10X or whatever. But I was just willing to take opportunities. When opportunities came to me, I was excited about, okay, is this an opportunity for me? If not, no big deal. Make the decision, move on. And my wife would even tell you, it's just like, she long ago, many years ago, stopped like really listening to all of the opportunities that I bring to the table, because she realizes that there's going to be talking about new almost every single week. And I'm going to go down the rabbit trail of every single one of those until it just doesn't make sense anymore. It's like, hey, no problem. But I'm not going to miss an opportunity. At the same time, I'm not going to just jump on the boat of opportunity because I don't want to miss it, because I realize that boat comes around like every single week, like clockwork. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Makes sense. So this brings to my mind the term sunk cost, right? Which is when we invest this time into an opportunity and then we have such a difficult time letting go because of the investment that we've put into it, whether that is cash investment or time investment, right? Or two most valuable resources. So how do you deal with that? How do you move so fast between opportunity and opportunity? Because we do live, I personally believe that we live in a world of abundance, that there are so many opportunities. Yet, I think a lot of people, me included here, lack the ability sometimes of letting go quick enough. And like you said at the very beginning, your superpower, adapt, right? Like that adaptability. How do we build that?
Yeah, well, so I'll use this here long ago in this world, and it's called the board doesn't define you. Okay, and so the what that means is that you could have had the worst sales week of your life. It doesn't define you, right? The sales board. You could have had the best week of your life. It doesn't define you. You are locked in and focused on what you're working toward, and then that's it. That's all that matters. Of course, you want to celebrate the wins. You want to be aware of what happened on the off week, and so that way you don't make those same mistakes. But high level, it doesn't define me. I'm still me. I'm still headed toward where I want to go. And so the sunk costs never really matter from that perspective. I can't be emotionally tied to what I've invested in it, because I got to be able to move with the wind or with COVID or with whatever, right? Whether it's an investment in something or whether it be a business decision and you're just keeping going down the same way, but you need to adjust, whether it be the offer or get rid of the business altogether. Those are all going to be situational things, but the high level is, sunk costs really, really suck, because like, man, I really sweat my blood, my tears, my money, whatever, my time. And you have to be able to associate, okay, well, what's the gap between right here and what I'm actually going toward? Which then is a whole nother conversation on, do you actually know what you're going toward? Have you gotten it broken down? Do you know what your action steps are each day, each month, each quarter? And if you know those things, then it doesn't really matter what's happened already, whether it was good or whether it was bad.
Yeah. So that seems to me like a very sales-oriented mindset on the establish a goal, break it down to what is the minimal step that you need to take every single time, right? So is that in a way what you help businesses do so they can, push those limits on work ethic, mindset, and results that we're talking about?
100%. Yeah. So on a sales side, absolutely. Whether somebody who's learning the sales process and that frictionless sale that you mentioned, and maybe they got aspirations to make their first 6 figures, right? Everybody who gets into sales doesn't want to make less than 6 figures, but how many actually do? And usually it's the gap of communication and reverse engineering what it is they actually need. How many phone calls do I need to make in order to get an appointment? How many appointments do I need in order to get a closed deal? What does the closed deal equate to me in commission? Okay, well, how many of those do I need this year to make 6 figures, right? That's what you just asked for, was the reverse engineer process.
Yeah.
Same thing with entrepreneurs. Okay, what's 3 years look like? What's 5 years look like? What's 10 years look like? Okay, let's reverse engineer that all the way back down to what am I doing this week? That way you can not only know what you're doing, but you can be accountable to it.
Yeah.
So many people are just like, okay, I'm going to go to work today, right? And you guys have probably had those days. I have those days where I log in and I'm like, so many things I could I put my attention toward today.
Yeah.
Right. But you guys got to use that filter of, and you can do the same thing with opportunities, whether new businesses or new investments or even new partnerships or new guests on your show. Put it through the filter of, does it get me what I want?
Yeah.
If it does, you do it. If it doesn't, you don't. That easy. And you don't even compromise. You just don't. If it doesn't get you what you want, you don't do it, period.
Yeah. I love it, dude, because a couple of days ago too, I had a conversation with a couple of people in the group that we have. We have a live challenge right now, 45 days straight of going live in whatever platform, right? And we have about 100 people in the group. They're killing it. They're staying accountable, and I think accountability is probably one of the most challenging things there, right? Because through the challenge, people have been facing the fears of just like putting their thoughts into words and put them out. It's probably the first time that they've done it on a consistent basis for that long period of time, right? And last week we were chatting with the group about those how we measure, right, the success. That people are like, okay, I've noticed that maybe the views are going down, but what are the markers that we decide are good for us, right? So we come at that challenge from a place of we need to discover our message, right? So am I discovering my message? I do not care about the views at that point or whoever transitions from the video to a conversation, because the objective at that point is my message. Once that figure out that I feel comfortable that this is the exact thing, and a lot of people in the challenge don't even have like a product to sell or different things. So why are we even worrying about anything in between except your message and figure out what is the next step, right? Conversations to get it. So I love that because it puts the lens on us, like back to us, so we can stay accountable. And we're like, okay, well, I thought I had to figure out, but I don't, right? And that mind shift, it's gonna allow us to move forward. The first time that we did the 45 live, about almost a year and a half now, probably.
I think 3 years.
3 years. That was the thing. The sole objective was consistency and find the message. For season 2 was, okay, we have the message I think is solid. Okay, let's establish conversations and get feedback. That was the next marker, right? After that, season 3 today is, okay, let's bring people on with the journey and implement the service, right? And different things, right? So I love, what are some of the markers that you see on your personal life as an entrepreneur managing these big teams that you've implemented every single day?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so within each business, obviously there's markers, right? So within like my edible arrangements franchises, we just passed Valentine's Day, the busiest day of the year, right? Strawberries and everybody goes crazy, right?
Yes.
So markers there could be like, okay, so for Valentine's Day, this might sound crazy. We've never been able to make it all the way through Valentine's Day without shutting off orders, right? So we get so many orders that we have to stop taking orders at, sometime in the 13th or sometime on the 14th. I've gotten better and better each year. And sometimes you shut them off just because people get crazy, But I set a goal this year is like, one of my locations is in a top, probably 25 location in the nation. And so we want to make it all the way through. And not just with one of my small locations, with that location.
Yeah.
And so we did it. And so it's like little markers like that, or whether it could be something personal in my life of like a certain net worth that I'm after. It could be a certain amount of passive income that I'm trying to build from my real estate portfolio. It could be a certain amount of leads that are coming in that are being generated from my marketing so we can generate conversations and appointments, sales calls, and new clients. So yes, absolutely. Markers, numbers are everything. Literally, the salesperson, the business owner that are succeeding, they know their numbers, period. They know their markers.
I love this. One of the things that stuck out right now through this last part of the conversation has been that sort of binary thinking on does it get what I want? Yes or no, right? It kind of gives this air of like stoic mentality of like remove everything else. Like I'm extremely focused, right?
Yep.
But that makes me a little bit curious because we all face that thing that is called resistance, right? Sometimes to execute, which can be, you referred to it earlier on, which was that limit what is our limit so we can push through, right?
Yeah.
So what you're explaining, yes, it sounds simple, but for a lot of people to execute is not easy, right? I think with practice, then it comes the easy part. But we still face that resistance, right? How does people, or how, let me rephrase this. First, how did you move on past that resistance, or how do you still do it nowadays? And, you know, what are some actionable points for people to deal with that resistance when it comes to, I need to get 20 calls in a day, 20 outreach. I have to do them. Let me do them.
Yep. The first step is knowing the number, right? So we just talked about that, but it's you sitting down with a pad of paper and a pen and going, okay, what do I want? And you got to be real with yourself and honest with yourself, and you got to write it down, and you got to just create a plan. And the plan may not be bulletproof, for lack of better terms, right? Because that's the name of my coaching business. But it's a start. You have to start. That's the whole point. You have to start, right? So you got to know where you're going. You got to start. Now, the things that I've done specifically to push through the resistance, it's like a rubber band, right? So you push and you try to find the limit, and then you're like, oh, okay, and you bounce back, right? And then the very next thing is, not only did I do it the one time did I find the limit, but you got to get back on the bike and do it again and again and again. And what you'll find is that eventually you'll either identify the limit, or let me say it differently, the boundary or the end. Like there isn't anything further, but then you'll also identify if it's just a limit and you need to bust through it. Right? So when you come back the second and the third and the fourth time or the 1,000th time, you're much stronger. You're way more confident. You're way more, you've run the race before. You know how to pace yourself. You know how to push and what corners to turn, right? And so when you get to that limit, each time you press further and further. I'm not a marathon runner, but I know how marathon runners train, and it's you do a little bit, you do a little bit more, you do a little bit, you do a little bit more, and then they have that one day a week where they just like triple the miles or double the miles at least. And it kind of like shocks their system. And then they go back to what they were doing a little bit more. And then they hit that one day of the week where they're just trying to stretch that rubber band out. So that would be action steps. It's going to be obviously dependent upon what kind of business or what kind of role you're in, that where you can specifically do that each day, but that's what it looks like from a high level.
Chaz, I absolutely love this, and I know Fonzie, you too. And give me one second. I want to do a reflection on the content side of things, because this goes hand in hand with what we've been chatting about, and there's something on the back end to prep people for maybe the service side of things, right? And when we took the approach of the show, and what if we tackle content in a very different way? Like, let's put the message out. Let's see those markers. Let's see those indicators on the message side of things, right? We went from a daily Facebook Live to producing a show 3 times a week. And then that show 3 times a week, almost a year later, it became 400 different pieces of content every single month over multiple social media channels, looking for those indicators, right? And the fun thing that we've established is like, okay, well, we haven't seen the first few months. We never saw data. We're practicing message. We're practicing execution. We're practicing our capacity to produce. We're testing our team's capacity to produce and distribute this, so we can create the framework that then we can optimize here and there, right? So yesterday we were actually having a conversation that the show times is going to change, because there's a post-production process that needs to happen afterwards for the team to execute, right? Okay, sweet. But we didn't find that out until we tested the capacity of everything, right? There's different guest shows that we're on. There's a content chop show that we do Thursday afternoons. So we're now, okay, well, now that we're executing consistently on that, is that actually being of benefit for the bigger picture, right? We do Clubhouse 1 time a week on Thursday. Is that helping us move closer to the goal? So now we have those indicators or markers, but we're stretching the capacity on the content production creation type of deal, so we can stress test that machine, and then, like you said, just rubber band out, be like, okay, reflection time, what's working, what's not, let's implement, we're going back out again. And so I love that visual, because as you were explaining it, I was going in my head through our own process. I encourage everybody listening right now, either on sales or their own content, right? If you're doing it yourself, or if you have your team, start looking at those things, at your capacity and your consistency, test them out, right? While gathering message, while building relationships for your business, right? And then 1 day a week, every 2 weeks, reflect on it. Is it working? Is it not working? What are my markers? Like, am I meeting them? And then adapt to move forward, like you did with your franchise, right? On that whole day. Congrats on actually making it all the way. And I can feel the pain, because my wife is like, please give me chocolate strawberries every single, and and her birthday is also the 13th, so I have to do like 2 boxes at least. I know, man. So, dude, thank you so much for explaining the frameworks, behind inside of your head for your companies. There's so much more here. I think this is so juicy. So juicy, so good.
But we already know that you're going to come back for round 2 of Content is Profit, Chaz. Yes. So it's all good. We're running out of time here. We just got the 5-minute warning. But I'm curious to learn about what's next for you, right? I mean, you seem like someone that has a plan and has it, like we've talked about today, broken down into the steps that you need to take. So what is your plan for, this next year or maybe the next 5 years? I'm curious.
No, that's great, man. Absolutely. We're good on my edible arrangements, investments. We're not taking any more of those. And so the idea there is to maximize current locations, build up team members. Really, I've got some awesome people on my team that I just love to continue to build relationship and build them up. Outside of that, I'm completely focused on my bulletproof coaching business. Like I said earlier, we've got the sales training, we've got business training, we've got leadership training. I'd love to have bulletproof dads and bulletproof families and bulletproof mind, and just really this idea of becoming bulletproof. It's not like you becoming perfect by any means, but it's you developing this self shield or this bulletproof vest that doesn't necessarily keep you from everything, but it gives you the extra, aggressive or confidence to be able to walk into really any situation and be able to be adaptable or to pivot or to pitch or to lead or to communicate, really whatever it is that you need to do in this process of becoming bulletproof. So over the next 5 years, we're going to build a ginormous business around this idea of becoming, bulletproof. And I hope, we're able to do some things along the way.
So good. I'm gonna be table face here, and if you don't know what table face is, you'll find out. Chaz, we want to work with you at some degree or level here. I'm just gonna put it out there. Somehow we want to serve you at some point. So if that's with you being on the show and advertising bulletproof all over the place, and amplifying your message, we resonate, man. I thank you so much for allowing us to have this conversation today. I'm pumped.
I love the whole concept of being bulletproof. I think, looking back in my life, I would have loved to have a message like this growing up, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I love the education that we got. I love our family, but like how we mentioned before, right? Our family was never exposed too much to the entrepreneurial world, right? Or tried once, and then it didn't work out for him, and then he decided to do other things, right? Which, of course, we're extremely grateful for. Again, we had a great childhood, but I would have loved to have a bulletproof concept that would have teach me early on how to be resilient, right? How to face opportunities head on without the fear of being rejected, without the fear of being told no, because when we started our business, right, the digital marketing side of it, which was about 4 years ago now, I remember my brother was at his full-time job, and I knew I had to do calls, right? I at the moment, I was listening to Grant Cardone a lot, I listened to his phone, sales calls, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, I need to go do sales calls. So I grabbed my gamer headset, right, with the mic. And I would walk around my room literally for 30 minutes, literally trying to get in the mindset to make one phone call. I was so scared of being told no, right? And I mean, it has taken us 3 years to get better at that mindset. I'm not going to say that I have completely, gotten the bulletproof mindset yet, because I'm still afraid sometimes of getting the no, right, of reaching out, but we're working now consistently towards that. So I think it's such an important concept. And man, just know that we're going to be supporting you and rooting for you in your corner too, because I think it's a message that a lot of people needs to receive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and you guys have a lot to be proud of, for what you just described, not only just building your business in 4 years, but taking that right there and taking something of nothing. That's who you were naturally, and being able to modify yourself into something that you needed to become in order for your business to move forward. That's what survival is. That's what humans do. And so congrats for that, because you guys are a great picture of what it looks like, or what the American dream is, or what it looks like for success. You guys have done that well, and so I appreciate your time as well.
Oh, thank you, man.
Chaz.
Thank you for the nice words.
I'm gonna ask, is that what humans do or what wolves do?
Yeah. Right.
Let's go.
You need to start. If you ever create your inner circle, it has to be called the wolf pack. Please.
Well, I have all of my company names are around the name, but I have one company that's called Wolfpack LLC. That's
yes, that's out.
That's
awesome. All right, Chaz, any last thoughts that we might have missed before we invite everybody to connect with you?
Yeah, if they want to connect with me, chazwolfe.com, ChazWolfe.com. Anything that we're doing is on there. And really, just anybody who's listening, I believe in you, and you need someone to tell you, or maybe you don't need someone to tell you, but the world is yours. Like you just gotta identify it and go after it. And I know that you can do it.
So good. Yeah.
Thank you,
and Chaz has those systems, those frameworks that support the amazing experience that he brings to the table. So go connect with him. We're just going to leave all the links right below. All you got to do is scroll down, click in there and chat with Chaz or his team. I think that's it, dude. That was so good.
That was so amazing, Chaz.
Great.
Thank you so much.
With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Content is Profit podcast. Go ahead and subscribe. Smash that subscribe button and follow us on social media at BIZBROS Co.
That is right. And if you find this episode impactful and you want to be part of the Wolf Pack, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.